welcome viewers to this series of lectures on 19th century Europe, 19th century European society to be more precise. And in the earlier part of the discussion, we had been talking of various ways in which the 19th century European society can be apprehended, can be understood or made sense of. And here we are taking this discussion forward. In the earlier part of our lecture, we had spoken of the postulation by Adam Smith in the sense of how man is visualized as individualized calculating savage, and therefore market principles, free market principles are best suited to take care of those innate propensities with which man is born. The alternative that we spoke of is socialism. Of course, we have already spoken of the liberal individualism, and so yet another option that we spoke of, which is very evident in 19th century Europe, is that of socialism, which begins with a different premise of propensities with which man is born, and that is that man is born social. And if man is born social, then his happiness would always be, or his happiness can be visualized only in social context, only in community context, and certainly not in individual context. So, this is the discussion that we were talking about, and taking it forward. While discussing Adam Smith's viewpoint, we said that it is rather naive to suppose that men had always lived in an environment that clearly distinguished economic relationship from family, social, tribal and political ties. In fact, this was not so till an exchange economy arose. Even then, and this is the point that that is interesting, that even when exchange economy had become the order of the day, say in the early part of 19th century, even then economic activity for most people remained subordinate to the social life within their villages or townships until these small communities were disrupted. And this is important, that there is nothing in this idea, in this attribute, in this assigned attribute of mankind, that man is born innately as someone who loves to calculate, who loves to maximize profit and minimize loss, and it is market principles along which the calculus of man's thinking actually operates. It is being said here that unless these small communities living in villages or various towns, they were unless they were disrupted, unless the coherence of these community lives were disrupted, this idea, this market principle, this exchange economy idea could not acquire an autonomy of its own. Until this disruption had not happened, exchange economy functioned well under or in subordinate position to the social life in these communities and villages. So, this transformation that we are talking of occurred not because of some inborn propensity that had at last found a suitable outlet, say in exchange of saleable commodities, but because a social earthquake had drastically altered their customary way of life, right. So, this argument is that unless the social coherence, the early or the pre-modern social coherence were disrupted, these ideas, this market principles ideas or exchange ideas had no chance to become as important as they appear today, because today what we the way we see them is almost in their autonomous form, and it is not it has a calculus of its own, it has an algorithm of its own, and this has little to do with the overall customary practices or social controls or social norms and so forth. In fact, it has a grammar of its own, to the extent that day to day's life today, we borrow the vocabulary from the market and make it our own. In fact, the historically, if you see, it is the social vocabulary that the exchange economy or market principles actually used in order to further its prevalence. Anyways, so another way in which these things can be looked at is that economists generally treat industrial revolution as something beneficial. So, despite the initial pains that it is associated with in terms of dislocation of workers from village to cities and filthy conditions of the cities or towns and several other issues of morality, anxieties that are expressed in the contemporary literature about the falling moral standards and so forth. All these problems of course constituted a painful experience, but economists generally treat industrial revolution as beneficial. Despite being painful, people got in the end what they wanted, and economists say what they wanted was a functioning market that delivered goods. And to the extent they could get a functioning market delivering goods, men should have been feeling as having benefited from industrial revolution. This is a very generalized kind of understanding that economists have. Historically, however, if we scrutinize this proposition, it does not appear to be true. Most people in areas where the this transformation is occurring from pre-industrial to industrial, most people in these areas wanted continuation and improvement of the existing way of life. So, there is no kind of welcoming of big industries with open arms by these people. They are instinctively they wanted to continue with the older ways. All that they of course wanted was improvement of existing way of life. So, they did not want their economic independence that these small farmers and urban craftsmen enjoyed to go away, whereas industrial revolution took them away. It is this strata which was wiped off by the sudden introduction of the new technology and emergence of market economy. So, this independence, economic independence of small farmers and urban craftsmen, that was the order of the day in the pre-industrial times, that had been taken away, and it was not given by these people because they are undertaking a new way of life, rather it was snatched away. So, despite they not wanting it, it happened to them. This is what the social earthquake that Lichtenstein is talking about. Machines could therefore have been introduced even when the production was for use and not for market or for profit. So, there is nothing wrong in the machines themselves. I mean, machines could have been taken to in a big way or in a general way without using it for market production or for augmenting profit. It could have just been used as a labor saving device and just to ease the pressure of everyday life that mankind was experiencing. But it so happened, historically it so happened, that the industrial revolution was accompanied by a social one. And what was that? This social transformation that we are talking of, this social revolution actually that we are talking of, which ran parallel with industrial revolution, was production for use getting replaced by production for market. This is new ideology, this is new calculus, this is new grammar of thinking. So, now production which was happening earlier only for say subsistence needs or requirement needs is now getting replaced by production for market. And when we say production for market, there could be a market in distant area for a particular good, and you have to produce, you have to manufacture those items, not for your own consumption or in your own locality and so forth, but for a distant market. Once the logic of the new system had been grasped, it saw the subordination of all other considerations to a single overriding aim, and that was of keeping the wheels going at all costs, despite the pains of proletariats. So, this dehumanized kind of mechanized understanding and autonomy of economic production, that come what may, whatever might be happening, the production process, the wheels of the factory have to keep moving. This logic subordinated all other considerations, the customary practices, the holidays, the leisure and so forth. They were the stories of past once this became the dominant thought process. Therefore, the revolution entailed a radical change in the prevailing mode of existence and the moral values that went with it. Obviously, it reconfigured the moral grammar in the post-industrial period, and economics had a grammar of its own, and it was not very humanized. Whereas, if you look at the history of the word economics, the root word is oikos, and this word, obviously one of the earliest references of this word is in Homer's time. So, we are talking of 7th century BCE or so, the times of the Greek epics. That is the time that we are talking of. And thereafter, even as late as Aristotelian period in Greek history, oikos continued to have the same meaning, and this word stood for household management. So, when we say household management, so when we say oikos, what it connoted is a household with a family head, head of the household, who is managing of course, the family members, the extended family members, and also the land that they hold, the animals that they have, the labor that they deploy on their farms, and how do they manage it. That is what constituted the meaning of the word oikos. So, obviously, as is evident, the production or the connotation of production by the word oikos is only for consumption purpose, or if at all they are thinking of gainful production, it is only marginal. And then this word in the medieval schoolmen started to connote something little different from it. So, they regarded oikos as a doctrine that subordinated exchange value, that is trade, to use value, that is householding. It presupposed that production and exchange did not have any purpose other than satisfaction of material wants. So, in the medieval times, the word stretches itself to give some scope for production for market, gainful production. Nevertheless, it is tied to satisfaction of material wants. It is not tied to some outside calculus of profit and loss, which is over and beyond you, right, and this is important. And if we look at or the assertion that we have just made here, that it is not as late, it is not up to the say 19th century or middle of the 19th century that economic logic would come to acquire an autonomous character of its own. Till around this period, economics had not become econometrics. There was still economy as a word owing its allegiance to the root word oikos, still was trapped in values, in customs, in customary practices, or I would say largely social norms, right. For example, if we look at Locke, who wrote about these things, otherwise we tend to regard him as very liberated and talking about all progressive things, and almost the ancestor of bourgeois liberalism. Yet, if you look at Locke's ideas and works, you find that his roots still lay in the Bible and Aristotle. Property in Locke's writing is personal ownership acquired by individual labor. So, here again, what one could own as personal ownership, what one could own can be acquired only through individual labor. So, anything that you have acquired or you have come to acquire through your individual labor, only that is the thing that you can personally own. Whereas, in the present times or in the transformed times, or economic logic is that whatever profit that you come to acquire through whatever means become yours, and you are individually owning it, right. And therefore, there is great degree of asymmetry in property ownership. But as late as Locke's period, we find property being understood as something which is acquired of individual labor. Production in Locke's writing is still for use and not for wealth creation, or not for profit kind of a thing. Man's natural right was only to such property as his own created, but with the acquired income he could acquire servants who would toil for him. But even Locke is not advocating political democracy. So, here you can see that one leg of Locke, despite being a progressive thinker, is still stuck in medievalism, is still stuck in values, is still stuck in customary practices. And that is very much evident when he talks about property issues, when he talks about production and so forth. He is not able to completely dislodge it from the moral concerns. So, as you can see on your slide, that he is making room, some room, when he says that some acquired income can be had by the labor of servants who toil for a particular person, but that is all, and it cannot conceive of anything beyond it, right. And it is not advocating political democracy, although it logically follows from it, but Locke is not proposing political democracy, because he knows that this will run counter to the interest of the ownership class, interest of the haves. So, life, labor, property and liberty were interconnected up to this point, and they were not autonomous of each other. Locke therefore had one leg planted in medieval soil. He could not dissociate economics altogether from morals or morality, and this is the point that we were talking about. There were some conventional values that took precedence over profit and loss calculation. Wealth creation was important and beneficial, all right, but the stability of the social order came first. So, even in the writings of Locke, you can see that economics or market principles or exchange economy has not been able to become a new social norm, and whatever progressive ideas that are being spoken of, it falls short of granting complete autonomy to profit making as the only guiding principle of human activity, and it is such an elevated kind of morality that it is free from all other constraints and concerns, all other moral inhibitions or moral concerns that could have circumvented the autonomy of economic or autonomy of free market or market principles or exchange economy. So, even in the writings of Locke, we find that morality matters, customary practices matter, and economic enterprise or ownership, etc., are only spoken of under the overall overarching presence of society, morality, and so forth. However, 100 years later, for Adam Smith, political economy had acquired the status of a specialized discipline. So, we are now talking of 1780s, 1790s, around the time industrial revolution is happening in England. So, by this time political economy had come to acquire a status of a specialized discipline, but even as late as up to Adam Smith's time, it was still subordinated to broader social and moral considerations. Creation of wealth was merely one aspect of communal life, its purpose being to serve the material welfare of the great body of the people, and therefore you can very well see the moral tinge here, right. So, even Adam Smith is not completely out of it, and that is why the point that we are making here, that it required dislodging or dismantling of the coherence of community life, which was traditionally lived the way they did either in towns or in villages. Unless that dislodging of community life had happened, there was no chance for market principles or exchange economy to take the center stage so far as economics is concerned. So, for Adam Smith, wealth creation was part of a social process to which natural law principles were very much applicable. And this is important, that wealth creation is, yes, an avowed objective of mankind, all right, Adam Smith saying so, but overall it was still a part of a social process over which natural law principles were applicable. So, it cannot go berserk, it cannot have an autonomous kind of air about itself, that come what may, the wheels of production must go on, it should not stop. That is something which even Adam Smith is not visualizing, is not endorsing. Hence, autonomy of economics was relative. Why it was relative? Because it was subordinated to broader aims of the Commonwealth, and it still had not acquired an absolute character of its own, right. Now, 1760 to 1840 is the time when Britain is transformed by the Industrial Revolution, and social morality was transformed by the impact of new economics, and this is where these transformations happen, and therefore 1800 can be regarded as a watershed, right. And before this, the distinction between capital and labor was still unclear. Laws of the self-regulating market economy still before 1800 hadn't acquired the terrifying mechanical effectiveness that it did in the 19th century, post the dismantling of community life, the small farmers, the artisans, artisanal production and so forth. Unless that was dismantled, this market principle and exchange economy couldn't acquire an autonomy of its own. And therefore, before 1800, social and economic aims were still fused, but once this dismantling happened, once the communal fabric of social existence in villages and towns, community life, community production, artisanal production, small farmers, once that was dismembered, the hell broke loose. The new logic became center stage, or acquired the center stage, and it acquired a very mechanical effectiveness, as we discussed earlier, thereafter. And from there on or thereafter, after 1800, it became difficult to check or to visualize economic activities or to visualize economics as to be functioning within social norms or within the umbrella of social norms or custom. So, the laws of natural principles could no more be applied to it because it had become the new principle itself. And that is where we will stop today before we take it further for discussion when we meet next. Thank you.